Hi everyone. So in this today's video, we will learn about the API gateway concept and we will see how API gateway works. So we will see the demo. We will be storing some of the students' data within this DynamoDB table, and that storage will also happen through the one of the Lambda function that will be doing the post kind of thing. And there will be another Lambda function which will retrieve the data from the DynamoDB table. You can see from the flow as well. This Lambda function will post the data in the DynamoDB table, and the second Lambda function, that is the get, which will retrieve the data from the DynamoDB table. All these Lambda functions will be invoked with the help of API gateway. And from where this API gateway will be invoked, so we'll be enabling one website within this S3 bucket. So we'll be using the static website hosting concept here as well. And then there will be user, of course, which like the user can be your browser, URLs, and all those kind. So we will be hosting a website in S3 bucket, and within this S3 bucket, we will be getting the concept of this API gateway. And through this API gateway, we will get the Lambda function and the post Lambda function, and this will work for either retrieve the data or post the data into the DynamoDB table. So the overall purpose of this demo will be the use case of the API gateway, how it works. Correct. So we will deep dive in the concept of API gateway here. So let's directly move to our AWS console, and we will log in there, and we will be creating this DynamoDB table first, and then we will be creating these two Lambda function and the further services there. Correct. So let's get into the AWS console. Okay, and let me enter the code here. Okay. So I'm logging into my AWS account here, and I will be creating the services according to the diagram what we have created here. Correct. So let me get into the DynamoDB here. I will be searching the DynamoDB, and we will be creating one table here. Correct. So let me open this DynamoDB table, and here I will be creating one table. So table name, I am just giving a student data, that I will be writing the name here. So it will be a student and the data, and the partition key, that will be kind of your primary key. I'll be passing as a student ID, that will be our prime partition key. And if you want to have a secondary key kind of thing, you can go with the sort key, but I'm going with the only primary, that's a student ID. Okay, rest all the things I will be keeping it as a default. So let me create a one table here. Okay, so we have created one table here. Now we have to create a Lambda function. So let me open a Lambda function as well here, and we will be creating two Lambda functions. Okay, so let me create a one function, and the function name will be get student data, that I will be putting at the name. And the Python version, we will be using 3.8 to create all the Lambda function. And default execution rule, I'll be creating a new role here. Correct. We'll go with the creation of new role, and to that particular role, we will give all the permissions which are required. So let me create function. So one of the Lambda function is being created, and meanwhile, let me create another Lambda function as well here, and I will be adding the role. Okay, so this Lambda function for the first one, Lambda function has been created, get student data. And here in the code, we will be passing the code which is required, and that you can find it from my public uh, GitHub repository. So there is a code, get students.py, you can see. And I'll be using the same code in the Lambda function. So let me copy this, and let's get into the Lambda function here. I'll be just doing the copy and paste here, and we'll be deploying this changes. Correct. So the table name, you can see it's student data, what we have created, the DynamoDB table student data. Correct. So you can verify that Dynamo table name as well, if you change the table name, or if you have the uppercase or the lowercase kind of thing. So what this Lambda function will do, it will get into the DynamoDB service according to the region what you will be passing one. So we were doing all the creation in AP South 1 region. So I'll be passing this AP South 1, that will be our region here. So within this AP South 1 region, it will go and it will search for the DynamoDB table, and then it will look for the student data, and from there it will try to retrieve the items, correct? So and in the final, it will return the data. So we will see the data whatever is given. So let's do the changes and we'll save this. So I have just deployed, correct? Now let's get into the configuration section and we will see the permission. So what kind of permission we have given. So this is our role, get a student data. And to this particular role only, we will be giving the access of this DynamoDB table. And furthermore, we will give the permission of S3 as well, because as per the diagram, we will be creating one S3 as well, correct? So let's give the full permission kind of thing. So let's get into this and I will be adding permission policies here. So let me add Dynamo, sorry, DynamoDB. And I'll be giving the full access. I don't want to go with the constant because we are doing the demo. So I'm just going with the full access. You can modify your access accordingly, correct? You don't need to pass every access to for the role for the production or something kind of thing. So right now I'm passing Lambda function and S3 full access to my Lambda function. Okay. So you can see to my particular role, DynamoDB full access, S3 full access, and Lambda basic execution role has been permission has been granted to this role, correct? So this is our Lambda function that is ready. And let's get into the career. Let's test it first, correct? So let me click on the test and let's see. So I'll be doing this test event here. I will be just passing the test, name the test, and then we will run this. So let me get run here. Let's click on the test and it should return with the zero response. So you can see there is no response. It's empty, correct? So as per the Lambda function, it should get the data from the student data. But right now in the DynamoDB table, if you get into the explore items, you will see there is no data, correct? So there is no data, it should not return anyway, correct? So that's the correct response from the Lambda function. Now we'll be creating another Lambda function that will be kind of post one, correct? So let's replace. You will see one Lambda function get a student data. Now we'll be creating second insert student data that we'll put, and the technology once again we'll be selecting Python 3.8. So let's select the Python 3.8 and the default execution role. Again, we will create another role here, or you can we can use the same, but let's go with the new role, correct here, and we'll be giving the same kind of permission to that role as well. So let's create the function. And then we will be using the code, and the code we have for the second one, API Gateway demo. Then we have to insert a student data. So we will be using this code there, correct? So let's get the code copied, and here we'll be passing the code what we have just copied. And here also, if you can see, this is the student ID, what we have created as a partition key, correct? So you can see in the explore items or within this table only is to within this data, within a student ID. So this is the student ID, that is our primary key or the partition key, correct? So this is the only key we will be using in the Lambda function, that will be the student ID. So it will be the student ID will be stored in this variable student ID, and the similar value will be used for in the response to put the items, correct? So in the table it will put the item, if you can see the code, and it will put the student ID, name, class, and age, and then it will return the response code, correct? So let's get with this, and we will just deploy the changes here as well. And in the permission again, here I'll be giving the same kind of permission, DynamoDB table and the S3 kind of thing. So let's give the permission to this as well. So yeah, let me add the permissions, attach policy. And in the similar way, I'll be giving the DynamoDB full access here as well. DynamoDB full access, and then I'll be putting S3 full access as well. Okay. So let's do the add permission. And the permission had been attached, correct? You can see that. Now let's get into the Lambda function, and I will do the test. And to do the test, I will have to create one event here as well, test, and here I will have to pass the details which are required, correct? So I will be passing the details according to the our code. So whatever the is the required, correct? So we required all these things, whatever there is in the item, correct? So I will require all these things. So let me get with that. And in the Lambda function, I'll be in the test, I'll be passing the same key value pair. Okay. And we will keep it in, we'll format the JSON here. Let's click on the format JSON. Okay, that's anyway fine. Let me keep it as in the double column. Student ID and the name. Here I'm just passing as Manish, that I will be putting my name only. And in the class, I'll be passing as 11. And here in the age, I'll be passing as just consider 18 here, correct? And this age factor also, I'll be keeping it as in double quotes. And here class, I'll be putting it in double quotes to make it as a perfect keyword value. And this one also, let me change it. Name, student ID, and this student underscore ID, it will be stored, correct? So, because this variable is being fetched from here. So now this is fine. So let's get into the our code part here, and let's do the formatting here. Okay, now it has been formatted as well. Student ID, correct? So yeah, a student ID, we will have to pass here. A student ID, I will be passing as 1. Let me put it as student ID as 1. And then name Manish, class 11, and age 18. Correct. Let's save this. Once we have formatted, let me save. And it has been saved. Let's get into the code part, or we can test from here as well. But let's test it from here. Let's run this. And you can see status code 200 body student data saved successfully, correct? So that was supposed to be there as per the code. So as per the code, once the response equal to table.put item was successful, it should return the response code 200 and the body student data saved successfully. So let's get into the DynamoDB table, and we will see either it has been stored or not. So now you can see in the DynamoDB table, within the explore items, you can see this data has been stored. Student ID 1 and the age 18, class 11, and the money. So that we had passed, correct. So till now, what we have configured and what we have achieved. So we have created one DynamoDB table, and within this DynamoDB table, we have stored data, correct? How that has been stored? So that has been stored with the Lambda function. So in the Lambda function, we have created one test case. As you can see, we have just created one test case here. And with this, that's the test case, correct? So if you get into this, we have passed this test case. So we have stored the test case, and within the test case, with the help of test case, we have saved the data in DynamoDB table. And now we will be using the Lambda function to get the data as well. So if I click here again on the test one, so this is the get function, get Lambda function, correct? Get student data. So here, if we click on the get, you will see the details has been fetched from there, correct? So now the get Lambda function, post Lambda function, and the DynamoDB table, this one has been achieved. Now we will be creating one API gateway, and then we will be having one S3 bucket as well. So let's get into this S3 bucket first, and then we'll be creating API gateway as well. So let's get into the S3 bucket. So within this S3 bucket, we will do a static website hosting, correct? And we will do enable that. So let's get into that, and we will launch our code into this S3 bucket. So let's get into the S3 bucket, and we will be creating that. So let's get into the S3. Okay. And here I'll be creating one bucket, and the name of the bucket I'm just keeping it Manish Demo one, that I'll be creating SCL table and all the configuration. So I'll be removing this block all public access because we have to create this we have to host this static website enabling we will be doing on. So we will have to make it public. So I'm just making my bucket a publicly available here, and yeah, that's it. I'll be just going with the create bucket. Okay. If you want to explore much on the static website enabling, so how can we host our static website? So you can get into this notes section on my public GitHub repo, and you can see one of the demo how we have enabled this as three static website hosting, correct? So that you can use. So now, once you have created your S3 bucket, you will get into the properties section and you will do the select static website hosting. So that configuration you will do. So let's get into this S3 bucket service here. And in the properties, manage demo one, this bucket has been created, correct? And this is in the North Virginia, what we have created, and rest of the resources we are creating in the Mumbai region. So let me do one thing. Rather than this creating in the North, this I'll be creating in the AP South one region. So let me just delete this bucket, and we'll be creating another one. Correct. So let me just delete this demo. I'll be managed demo one that let me delete. I'll be creating it. As we know that bucket are region specific, so I'm just trying to get into the only one region, not to diversify into multiple regions. So with the resources, so I'll be creating only one region. So this one and public access. I'll be just disabling this, and I acknowledge that, and rest of the things will be default ones. Okay, so. Okay, so conflicting conditional that is being created. So let me do it manage demo 11. So that I will be keeping the name manage demo 11. That bucket should be created in the Mumbai region now. And okay, that's fine. So this bucket has been created now. Let's get into this objects we can upload. So I'll be just uploading two of the objects here. I have. So I'll be adding two files, index.js and that is sorry, script.js and index.html. I'll be doing that. So let's get into the my DevOps work, and then I have the API Gateway demo, and I'll be uploading all these two files. Correct. So let me remove this. Okay. How can I do it? Okay. So let me do open and index.html and this one, and I'll be uploading these two files. Upload. And if you want to see the content of these two files, you can see on our repo. So this is the code. You will sorry, this is the code on the VS code. If you can see, this is the index.html file. And then there is a script.js. The same thing you can find out on the Git repo here within this API Gateway demo folder. So it's index.html and then script.js. So we'll be doing some kind of modification here. I will be creating API Gateway demo, and then I will be passing that particular URL here as a API endpoint that we will do the changes, and we will upload the script.js once again, correct? So yeah, let me do that one thing. And yeah, let me drag it down here. Where is the S3 bucket? Yeah. So I'll be doing one thing here. I'll be just doing the enabling of the S3 static website hosting here. Let's click on the edit section, and we will do the enable host a static website, correct? And we will be mentioning the file index.html. That's it, and nothing else we have to do, correct? So it will just enable the static website hosting, correct? Save changes. Okay, that's fine. We have enabled that. And what else we have to do for a static website hosting? If you see, upload an index and strict section and bucket policy, we will have to mention this, correct? So let me create this bucket policy as well, and the rest of the all the things are done. So let me create the bucket policy. Where is S3? Yeah. So in the permissions, I will have to create one bucket policy. Okay, this one. And I will have to pass this Manish demo 11, that the bucket name. So let me pass this Manish demo 11, that will be the bucket name. Save changes. Okay, fine. Let me get into the properties section. Let me click on the URL. Let's see what comes as a response. So this is the form which will be populated for you. Save and view student data. Once you will be clicking on the save student data, it will save the data, and view all students will get your data. So how will it work? So once you click on the save student data, the post lambda function will work and it will save the data in DynamoDB table. While if you click on the view all student data, this lambda function for the get one will work and it will get the details from the DynamoDB table. So these two will work. So here we are hosting our application. Then there will be API gateway in between. And this API gateway will invoke the get and a post lambda function, and it will retrieve the data and it will once again share your response to the user. Correct. So that we will see here. So then the API gateway will come into the picture. So right now, what we have achieved, we have hosted our application on S3 buckets. This is the application what we have hosted. You can see the this is the S3 static website hosting URL, correct? That you can get into the properties section from here, correct? In the buckets and in the buckets only, correct? Manage demo 11 in the properties section. And we have created this Lambda function and the DynamoDB table. So what is left? So the left thing is the API gateway. So let's move into the API gateway section. And I'm just pausing for 1 second here in between, and we will start again. Okay. So we are back to the video, and so we were about to create this API gateway, correct? And all the configurations have been made. DynamoDB table, Lambda function, S3 bucket, all the things have been achieved. So now we will be getting into the API gateway section, and we will be creating the API gateway. So let's move to the API gateway now here, and yeah, this is the API gateway. So let's create one API gateway here. So I'll be creating a REST API here. So let me click on the build, and we'll be creating the name with the student, that will be keeping it as a student. And description, we are not keeping anything. Regional and age optimized, there are two options here. So I'll be going with the age optimized so that we can access the application from anywhere, not anything specific to region. So I'm just avoiding the regional here, and I'll be just creating the age optimized here. Let's click on the create API, and this API has been created. Now, once we have the API created, we will be, as you can see from the diagram, so we have the two kind of methods. When we have the get method, and the second one we have post method. So one will retrieve the data, second will store the data in the table. So here we will be creating two methods as well. So let me select the method as get first, and I will be creating the, so this get method will work with the Lambda function, correct? So we are creating the Lambda function to get and post the data. So we'll be selecting the Lambda function here. And we have created Lambda function in episode 1. So I'll be selecting the get student data. That is our Lambda function, and that will work. And that's it. We don't have to get into any other settings here. So all this will be default one, correct? So let me create on the get method. And if you want to test this get method, you can get into this test options, and here you can just click on the test, and it should show you the response, correct? This get lambda function should show you the response. So if you see this has returned the response, a student ID, name, and the thing what we have stored in this DynamoDB table, correct? You can see. So the same thing we have retrieved here. Then sorry, then we'll be creating another method here, and we will creating this second method, that is the post one, correct? So let me get there, and I will be creating one more method, post here, and the same lambda function will be selecting one, the second one, insert student data, and nothing else, and just let's create the method. Okay. And then once again, if you want to store the data, you can get into this test options, and let's get into the test. Here you will have to pass the details, correct? So I just don't want to pass any details here, but if you want, you can pass the details, and you can save the data as well. So let's avoid this, and let's get into the deploy API now here. So let me select the deploy the API here. So I will be selecting new stage, and we will be giving the name of the stage as prod, correct? Let's click on the deploy. So it has been deployed now. You can see the invoke URL. So this invoke URL will be used for invoking the API gateway. Correct. So you can see when we were creating this script.js, we had the one variable API endpoint. So here in the API endpoint, we will be passing this invoke URL of the API gateway what we have created. Correct. So this API will be used, and whenever our application which has been hosted on S3, that will work, and that will go for the API endpoint of the API gateway. So it will hit this, and this API gateway will further hit the Lambda function get and post, and it will retrieve the data over the AWS, sorry, over the browser console here. Correct. So we'll be saving this code here. I will be just saving here with the new invoke function 5vn. That is our invoke URL. Correct. You can see from here 5vn, and I will be uploading the same script.js here in the bucket as well. S3 bucket. Correct. So let me re-upload that object as well here before it gets there. Correct. So let me just delete this script.js, or rather than deleting, you can simply do, you can just re-upload. So I will be re-uploading this script.js rather than deleting. Correct. That will be more perfect for us. So I've just saved this files 27th of 11. So let me just re-upload, and yes, click on the upload, and it has been re-uploaded. So this code should work fine now. Correct. Okay. So that's it, and let's get into the API gateway once again, and let's get into the resource. Correct. And here we will be doing this enable CORS as well. And here I will be selecting all the options, get default one, get post, and the options as well. Correct. And access control allow origin, it will be a star, and everything is fine. Save. So CRS is enabled so that you can have the cross origin resource, so like that will fetch the file from anywhere. Correct. CRS is required to do your get and post work constantly. Correct. So we have created this. Let's deploy this API. Deploy API. Okay. And we will select the stage prod, and let's deploy this. So it has been deployed. Correct. Now let's get into the URL here, the URL what we have hosted. Let's click on the view all student data. Correct. So you can see it has returned the error students retrieving the data. Correct. It has returned. So it was taking time to refresh. Now, if you can see, this student data has been returned. So this is the data which has been stored in the our DynamoDB table. 1, Manish, 11, and 18. That was the table entry. Correct. 1, 18, 11, and the Manish. So in the class you will see the 11, as you will see the 18. So as you can see, 18, class 11, Manish. Now let's store one data as well here. So student ID, I will be putting as 2, and then I'm just putting as just Saurabh. So that will be our second name. I'm just putting a one random. And class, let's suppose this Saurabh is just a little bit junior than Manish. So it's in the 12th class, and his age is 19. So let's save the student data. And as per the Lambda function code as well, you will see that it should return this insert student data. It should have return this response code 200 and student data saved successfully. Correct. So it has returned the same student data saved. And in the DynamoDB table, if you refresh here, you will see the data has been stored to 19, 12, and so on. Correct. So this is how our API gateway, Lambda function, S3 bucket all together works, and this is how Lambda API gateway can be used to achieve the this kind of demo, where you can store the data in the table, in the DB, DynamoDB table, or anywhere, and you can retrieve the data from that DB or table, and you can show it over your console, over your browser, whenever wherever you have hosted your application. Correct. So this is the all use case of the API gateway. It's kind of a serverless deployment we can achieve with the API gateway. So that's it for this particular video, and we will come up with another more interesting topic and another more AWS services where we will learn in deep. So that's it for today, and thank you all. If you have any question about this demo or about any further video, you can comment it, and I'll be trying to respond on that, and we will be getting another video as well. If you want to get into another topic like website hosting or Lambda function creation, or any other topic, you can visit my channel, and there you will be watching another videos which will be helpful for you Correct. So thank you so much till that time. Bye bye.